Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. My guest once again today is Aris Papadopoulos, talking about the rise of the oceans around the world and what impact that may have on the low-lying areas of Earth where many people now live and work.
I think the movement, real estate community used to say location, location, location. I like to reply high ground, high ground, high ground.
I was wondering about that because my station is located in the city of Middletown, Connecticut, on the Connecticut River, and the riverfront is considered to be a highly prized commodity because of what you can do with it in terms of tourism, in terms of recreational opportunities for the residents of the area, and so on. But there's a restaurant located right practically on top of the river, which was formerly a clubhouse for a yacht club, I guess they called it back 100 years ago. And every time it floods, every time the river floods, they have to completely gut the interior of the lower level of that building and rebuild it. And for someone like me, I just look at it and say, I understand why you want to be there, but it just seems crazy to knowingly not put yourself at risk, but actually incur not a risk, but an actual catastrophe every time something like that happens.
Exactly. I myself live in Miami, and been here 20 years. The first half of that period, I lived on the beach and enjoyed it. But then I started realizing that the future was not going to be there, and moved further inland on the west side of Biscayne Bay, and looked at where the original settlers actually settled. And they had settled on the high ground and picked a location, which for Miami is a mountain at 15 feet elevation. And you know what? I didn't have to pay more for it because the market doesn't value today the safety of higher ground, so you can get it for free. But there's going to be a day, and that day may be coming soon, where the high ground essentially is a more valuable land, and people will want to be there and not be on that waterfront, which is going to cost them more to keep their home and themselves safe.
So what are you recommending then, sir, to encourage people to come to that conclusion with maybe some assistance, but in the end, making that choice for themselves because it makes sense and because the high ground is, in fact, safer over the long term for anyone and their family?
Well, I definitely encourage anybody who's looking to buy a home, to move to another location, to consider that early on in their selection process. In other words, for me, half of the issue is where we decide to live, and the other half is in what type of home we decide to live. But the where, if we pick a risky location, we're definitely going to have to do a lot more work or spend a lot more to make it safe. So being in a safe location to me is the first step. And I'm working right now with another nonprofit and hope to have it available by sometime in the first half of next year. What I consider to be the first of its kind. We're calling it a Resilient Smart Home Buyer's Guide that will help potential home buyers help them through this step-by-step process as to what you should be looking at. In addition to the schools and the neighborhoods and the typical thing that people do in terms of selecting a safe location. And then depending on the location you select, what kind of home might be safer than others. I like to say today we know a lot more when looking to buy a car about the safety or for a used car, the record of the car, the past record, than we know about a home. And a home is the most important and probably the biggest investment most of us will make in our life. And that needs to change.
I've noticed in the Sunday Hartford Courant newspaper, they have a pull-out section regarding real estate. And an article I saw a Sunday or two ago talked about how someone bought a house and it got an inspection, but then after they were there, all sorts of stuff that wasn't immediately visible popped up. How seriously do we have to invest in the kind of homework beyond the surface examination in order to actually know what's what and to be able to make an intelligent choice about it?
A lot more than we do today. Unfortunately, the property industry doesn't necessarily help us do that because they're kind of focused on churning the deals and getting the deals closed. So they discourage kind of that dimension, that thinking. So we initially have to become our own detectives. Even inspectors, most of them are not trained to look at things like this. I think that will change in the future. I mean, they basically look at wear and tear, and they basically look at whether the house complies with current codes. But we have to recognize that codes don't necessarily mean that a home is safe from hazards, because the standard to which codes are made is to get you out, to give you enough time to get out, not to save your asset and your investment. So, and codes like to say we're the minimum. And I like to tell people, which part of your life do you really stick to the minimum? Is it education? Is it food? Is it health? No. And yet in the most important decision in our lives, which is our home, the system puts us at the minimum. And so we need to kind of, as consumers, ask ourselves, what should I prioritize? Is it the kitchen? Is it the bathroom? Or is it the safety of the home? And unfortunately, we've grown up in what I call the Better Home and Gardens TV generation, where, we're marketed cosmetics, and we're not educated with enough information to make us discriminate between a safe home and an unsafe home.
If a person wants further information about the material that you mentioned a moment ago that will be available, will there be a point at which you'll be publicizing the availability of that or providing contact information so someone can obtain a copy of that if they so choose to do?
Yes, it would be for free because I believe in, this is important enough as the purpose of my nonprofit. It will be publicized on my website, which is buildingresilient.com, and also through my Twitter site, Resilience AF, at Resilience AF. As I mentioned, hope to have it ready and coming out before the middle of next year. And I'm hoping that it will not be a textbook. In other words, we're not trying to make the consumer into an engineer or a specialist, but conversational, as if you're talking to an expert or experienced friend or uncle, and he's giving you pointers as to what to look for.
What kind of spade work do you need to do as far as interacting with other members of the greater community, such as the realty business, or for that matter, other people who are in the building or construction industry, to demonstrate to them that what you want to share is actually to their benefit as well as the benefit of those who actually need to make choices such as you've described for us?
It's a bit of a chicken and egg issue because I've come from the construction industry, and unfortunately the building construction industry fights raising the standards and raising the codes because they see it as a cost. And I can understand that because they see it as a cost because the consumer, the ultimate buyer, is not valuing it today. So if they could sell it for more and make a profit, they'd be pushing it too. But that's why I'm focused. My efforts today are focused on raising awareness, transparency, and education at the consumer. I think the consumer is the key to change here. And if a consumer appreciates this, like we today appreciate, many of us appreciate organic food, healthy food, and we're willing to spend maybe a little bit more to get something that's organic and healthy, why don't we appreciate the safer, more resilient home, So if we can get the consumer asking for it, the builders and suppliers will provide it. But until we do that, they see it as a cost and a reduction of their profit.
Thank you very much for making that point at the conclusion of our conversation. So it's been really a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for communicating that to your audience.
Aris Papadopoulos, my guest on these 2 days of WIHS Journal broadcasts. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. That's 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of this station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from WIHS, Middletown.